Let me tell you about my favorite player in the NBA. My guy, Sacramento's guy, the guy who came in during the fourth quarter, fired up the Golden One Center crowd who was quiet all night long, the guy that made it possible for Malik Monk to hit his killer game winner, the guy that doesn't play for the Sacramento Kings. Oh no, he plays for the Golden State Warriors, and his name is Draymond Green. Because of Draymond, the Sacramento Kings defeated the Golden State Warriors 124-123, finishing a perfect 4-0 in in-season tournament group play. That means they're moving on to the knockout round, and we're celebrating a Kings victory right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. And of course, Draymond Green is not my favorite player in the league. Quite the opposite. But tonight, I'm feeling some love for Draymond. It was great to see him return from his suspension to come into Sacramento. And even though he was treated with a little bit of booze here and there from the Kings crowd, he decided, you know what? I'm gonna get over that, and I'm gonna do you Kings fans a favor. I'm gonna do the Sacramento Kings a favor. I'm gonna get this crowd involved in the fourth quarter. Draymond Green seriously deserves a massive assist for this Kings win tonight. Now, he doesn't get all the credit, of course, and the defensive player of the game crown went to some other player, and the crown belongs to a Sacramento King, and rightfully so. But maybe dust the chain off from last season and put it around Draymond's neck. Let him wear it for the next day or two as a remembrance of how much he helped the Sacramento Kings win this game. Because in the fourth quarter, it was him that changed this game for the Kings. At the 9-minute and 39-second mark of the fourth quarter, the Golden State Warriors were leading 107-98 when Draymond Green picked up the technical foul. That technical foul was met with the loudest pop, the loudest cheers of the night from a Golden One Center crowd that had been relatively contained the entire night. Why? Because for the most part, the Golden State Warriors were kicking Sacramento's ass, especially in that first half. And we'll get into how ugly that first half was and how great the second half was for the Kings in just a little bit. But the crowd pops. Draymond Green gets the issue, the technical foul. Malik Monk steps to the free throw line, hits the free throw. It's now 107-99. After that, the Kings inbound the ball to Malik Monk. Draymond Green switches on him, and Green decides, you know what, I'm pissed off because I got a technical foul. I'm just going to be my Draymond Green stealth. He tries to physically defend Malik Monk, gets called for another foul, and then ends up subbing out of the game. So when he comes back in the game, about a little less than 4 minutes later, around 4 minutes later, he comes back into the game. When he exited, the Kings were up 107-99. When he enters, the Kings are up 111-110. So the Kings go from down 8 to up 1 with Draymond Green on the bench with a renewed energy and a fired up crowd behind them because of Draymond Green's actions. So he comes back in with 5 minutes and 46 seconds left in this game, and this is how the game finished for Draymond. These are all the plays that Draymond was involved in. Foul, missed layup, defensive rebound, missed open three, and then the turnover with 29 seconds remaining that opened the door for Malik Monk's game winner. So, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to like Draymond Green. You don't have to cheer for Draymond Green by any means. But if you want to send a heartfelt thank you to Draymond and to the Golden State Warriors for what he was able to do tonight, by all means do so. Because without that moment from Draymond, without that technical foul and him using that to fire up the Kings crowd and give the Kings themselves energy, he completely worked against his team tonight. I'm not saying that Draymond Green is unplayable by any means. I don't question the decision of Steve Kerr having Draymond finish the game despite this being his first game back from a 5-game suspension. Like, the Golden State Warriors are figuring things out right now. I know Draymond Green is an incredibly important piece of that Warriors core. So I'm not going to go as far as to say, like, Draymond should not have been in the game. But this is where putting up with the antics of Draymond rears its ugly side. Because not only did he miss 5 games for you when you could have used him over those 5 games, not only that, because he decided to put Rudy Gobert in a headlock, here he comes and decides to make everything about him, decides to get all macho, Draymond Green, this is who I am, pay attention to me, and he changes the environment. He changes the momentum himself in favor of his opponent, who ends up stealing a game that they by no means should have won. The Kings should not have won this game. I was preparing to host a podcast where I wasn't going to be my over-the-top obnoxious self after the Kings lost to the Golden State Warriors to Klay Thompson's game winner in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago. I had some fun with the start of that podcast and kind of going a little crazy, and there was kind of some silliness to it. I was going to be very straightforward. I wasn't necessarily going to be angry, but I was going to be blunt, because the reality is the Kings were getting little brothered in the first half. The Kings were getting put in their place. They had no answer for Golden State. In fact, everything that the Sacramento Kings have been doing right this season, all the growth that they've shown over the course of this year, that was chucked out the window. They did not look like themselves at all. They looked like the Golden State Warriors were completely in their head. They looked like they just were not ready to take on this Golden State Warriors squad. They were in the mud. The second half, they did a lot. We're going to give them a lot of credit, not just Draymond Green credit, for the Kings winning this game. Certain guys stepped up defensively. The Kings as a whole played much better defensively in the second half. We'll get all into these numbers in a second. But Draymond Green is the MVP tonight for Sacramento, because it's him that turned the game around. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but I will say it. Thank you, Draymond. We appreciate your sacrifice. We appreciate your input in tonight's game. Have a safe trip back to Golden State or to San Francisco, to the Chase Center. Have a great old night. Enjoy the rest of your season until the Kings play you again later on in the year. And hopefully you can do the same thing, gift wrap another Kings win for Sacramento. That is what he did tonight. But all right, let's talk about this game as a whole. Because to me, it feels like the Kings exercised a demon tonight, doesn't it? Like, it's not just that the Kings finally beat the Golden State Warriors. Like, I want to do the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, finally, the Sacramento Kings have defeated the Golden State Warriors. Like, I want to do the Rock celebration. But in reality, it's not just that, look, the Kings finally beat the Warriors. It's, look how they beat the Warriors and what they went through to beat the Warriors. Like, if the Kings had lost tonight's game, and it looked like they were going to, that means including the 2 meetings in the preseason and going back to after Game 2 of the playoffs last year, Kings won Game 2. From that point on, the Kings and Warriors played each other 10 times. Had they lost tonight, they would have been 1-9 in those 10 games. Now they're 2-8. It's not much better, but at least they finally got a win at the end of it, and that's great to see. But it's how they got this win, right? Going through that first half, that was abysmal. They were sloppy. They were unfocused. They were straight up getting punked by the Warriors. The Warriors were in complete control of this game, and I know the Warriors have been struggling, and there was a lot of talk about how the Warriors have not been playing well coming into tonight's game, and most Kings fans, like myself, I even heard people talking about it on Sacramento Sports Talk Radio coming into tonight's game. That almost made us feel worse, because it felt like the Kings were going to be the Warriors' Tylenol, and sure enough, they were, right? The Warriors were getting right against the Kings. I think for the first time this season, the Warriors had 3 guys finish with 20 or more points. Wiggins, Klay, and Steph Curry. Steph ended up leading the Warriors in scoring with 29. It was a quiet 29 for him. De'Aaron Fox also had 29 points in this game. It was a quiet 29 for him too. We'll get into that later on in the show. But, like, of course, with the Warriors and all their struggles all season long against the Kings, they would figure it out. Now, some people still scoff at the idea of Kings and Warriors being a rivalry, right? The Kings aren't a rival to the Warriors. The Kings have to beat the Warriors at a time that it matters first for it to be a rivalry. A lot of people think that way, including some people in this Kings organization. So if that's the way you feel, that's the way you feel. I'm not telling you you're wrong, but you cannot tell me that the Golden State Warriors don't get up to play for the Kings. I don't know if it's because they are the old dogs, they are the dynasty, and here's this young fellow Northern California team that is a threat to them, that took them to the brink during the playoffs, and they just want to put the kid in their place a little bit, like an older brother, younger brother relationship, right? Like younger brother is finally starting to beat older brother in a game of 21, so older brother has to flex a little bit and make sure, put the younger brother in their place a little bit, even though they can see that younger brother is becoming better than them, and it's soon to be the younger brother's time. That's kind of the dynamic of these two teams. And you can tell with how the Warriors approach games against the Sacramento Kings. They play the Kings harder than they play other teams. They play better against the Sacramento Kings than they play other teams. And that's not because the Kings are worse than those other teams. That's because the Warriors get up for Sacramento. They clearly love to play here in the Golden One Center. They love to play the Kings at the Chase Center because it's must-watch TV. You have everybody around the league watching on TNT tonight thinking, man, this is a blowout. Here are the Warriors that are kicking the Kings' asses. For those of them that stayed awake, they were rewarded with an incredible finish to this game. Like, if you don't want to call Kings and Warriors a rivalry, that's absolutely fine. That's fine. But you can't deny that the Kings bring a side out of the Golden State Warriors that they don't really show anywhere else. And finally tonight, they were able to bring out that side and beat that side. Again, shout out Draymond Green for that. The Warriors were shooting really well in the first half. They shot they shot 27 of 42, 64% from the field in the first half. They were playing incredibly well. It just seemed like everything was going the Warriors' way, and they were beating the Kings in areas where the Kings have improved this year, but the Kings were getting beat bad against the Warriors and against other teams last year. Like, for example, on the glass. The Warriors were dominating the Kings on the glass. They ended up beating them in the first half 29-18. They shot 54% from the field, 43% from three-point range, and a perfect 100% from the foul line in that first half. But I think they were out rebounding the Kings at one point 16-3 or 16-4 to start this game. Like, the Warriors were just kicking the Kings' ass in all the areas that they beat down the Kings during the playoffs. It was ugly, ugly, ugly. Then the second half happened, where the Kings won the second half 69-51. That included holding the Warriors to just 19 points in the fourth quarter. The defense stepped up again. The Kings held the Warriors to 40% shooting from the field, 31% from three-point range, 80% from the foul line. The Warriors hit only 5 threes. Only 5 threes in the second half after raining down 12 threes in the first half. The Kings defensively changed this game. They changed it long enough for their offense to wake the hell up a little bit, because the offense was pretty bad all night with the exception of Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk for the most part. Finally, De'Aaron Fox got going a little bit at the end. Also, Sasha Vezenkov had some good moments too. We're going to talk about Sasha later on the podcast because I have to sing his praises. But the Kings also woke up offensively, shot 46% from the field, 36% from three, a woeful 63% from the foul line in the second half. They had shot 20 free throws in the third quarter, which was why this game went so freaking long. The Kings' free throw shooting period in this game was just dreadful, like horrendous. But in the second half, the Kings out-rebounded the Warriors 28-23, and for the game, they won the battle in the paint, which is huge for Sacramento, 50-38. So overall, the second half, amazing for the Kings. A second half worth celebrating. Mike Brown had a lot of praise to give out for his team, for a bunch of different guys with that second half. I know, because I've already seen some Golden State Warriors fans want to make a big deal out of the officiating and wanted to make a big deal about, like, oh, the Golden State Warriors were cheated out of this win. The refs handed this win to the Sacramento Kings, which to us here in Sacramento is just absolutely laughable. The idea that any referee will hand the Kings anything. But it's the same excuses and same crying and bitching they were doing after Game 1 and Game 2 of the playoffs, because when they're losing, it can't be their fault, right? It can't be Draymond Green's fault that he single-handedly changed the momentum for the Warriors and gave it in favor of the Sacramento Kings. Can't be his fault, right? No, it's the officials that are it's their fault, right? It's not the Warriors' fault that they only scored 19 points in the fourth quarter. It's the officials for giving the Sacramento Kings all those foul calls, even though the Kings nearly threw away every opportunity they had by shooting terribly from the free throw line tonight. They missed way too many free throws. In the end, they scratch out a 124-123 win. Of course, a solid win following up their really, really good win to end that 6-game road trip against the Minnesota Timberwolves. A whole lot about this game to be scared of, a whole lot of this about this game to really like. I'm going to get into and dive into the individual performances here in just a second. But like I said, it just feels like the Kings have exercised a demon a little bit. They beat the Warriors finally. They beat him by a solid second half and a comeback win after they were down by 24 points and getting their ass kicked in the first half. And then they follow up the Klay Thompson game winner in San Francisco that knocked them, started that losing streak for the Kings, right? They follow that up with a Malik Monk game winner on a circus shot, and we'll get into that here in the next segment. Like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder and colder, things are heating up. The NFL offers on FanDuel are getting hotter and hotter. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That means you pick a money line for a team that you think is going to win. It doesn't matter how heavy favorites they are. It doesn't matter if you put $5 down and you're only going to get 1 cent back, right? Or 5 cents back if it's terrible odds. Does not matter because it's $150 in bonus bets that you're after, and you can use those $150 to keep playing on FanDuel, betting on the NBA, NFL, so many different things, spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Hopefully you took my advice earlier on in the season and you put the money down on the Sacramento Kings to win the Group C in the West for the in-season tournament because they had the 4th worst odds out of 5 teams in the group to win the group. Lo and behold, they won, so that probably made you a pretty penny on that. And that's just an example of the many things that you can bet on FanDuel. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to do so than right now. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, kick off the NFL season, and tip off the NBA season the right way with FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Let's talk about some individual Kings performances here. Mostly good, but some of them I do have some critiques for, but very few critiques for Kevin Huerter. I'm telling you, if this was the Kevin Huerter that the Sacramento Kings had in the playoffs, it wouldn't have gone to 7 games, and the Kings wouldn't have been eliminated and would have been continuing to play on against the Los Angeles Lakers. It was nice to see that in the first half, when so much was going the same way as we saw in the playoffs, right? When so much was going wrong, you had Kevin Huerter step up. You had Kevin Huerter say, yeah, I shot like crap during the playoffs. I was not playing well. I've been working my way through it. It had lingering effects on the start of this season, but I'm playing good now, and not only am I going to be raining down some threes, which I didn't do during the playoffs. Kevin had 21 points tonight, went 4 of 7 from three-point range. I'm also going to keep doing what I do on the glass. He pulled down for 9 rebounds, also dished out 5 assists. Like, this is a huge game for Kevin Huerter. And I know I've been singing Huerter's praises over the last couple of weeks with how he's worked through his funk and how he's come out of it and he's doing exactly what Mike Brown wants. But with the exception of an absolute bona fide superstar shooting guard, which the Kings are not really going to get, this is exactly what you need from that 2-guard position. Kevin Huerter is giving you exactly what you need, and it's a perfect balance with Malik Monk, who comes in off the bench as that 6-man firecracker push, who's basically the secondary ball handler, the backup point guard. Even though he's a 2, he can play with Fox or he can play without Fox and make the same kind of impact. He's definitely more of a go-to scorer when the Kings got to have something. Malik steps up in that area, but this input, or rather, should I say output, from Kevin Huerter tonight. If this is what you can get 2-3 games over the course of a 7-game series, man, the Sacramento Kings are in great shape. And I'm not just talking about him averaging 21 points. I'm talking about him being a perimeter threat like we know he is, plus also crashing the glass, getting his teammates involved. I thought Kevin Huerter, even though Klay Thompson was off to a really good start, shooting the ball well in the first half, it was like the Klay Thompson versus Kevin Huerter going back and forth. And I'm telling you, without Kevin Huerter out there, the Sacramento Kings are down by 35 in the first half. Kevin was really the only thing going right for Sacramento for much of the first half. Now, Malik Monk did come in and make an immediate impact right away. He played 8 straight minutes. Early second quarter, was subbed out of the game, did not come back in that first half. And we were wondering, like, I guess he went back into the locker room, and Mike Brown talked about it after the game a little bit and said Malik wasn't in the doghouse, but he blew a couple of assignments on Klay Thompson, so he thought he needed to get a different look defensively. So a little curious about that decision. But, of course, Malik Monk was huge in tonight's game. Also had 21 points, 8 of 15 from the field, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block. He's everywhere. And, of course, the game winner that he hits. Like, that game winner epitomizes Malik Monk in so many ways. Like, Malik is chaos, but he's good chaos, right? The way Malik plays, there's just flash, there's flair. He'll get to the rim and somehow flip up, a change of the hands, flip up, reverse layup that has no business going in, but it does. He hits some big shots from the perimeter. He can go off at any point, can also get his teammates involved. Tonight, he didn't really distribute the ball. He didn't have to as much. Maybe the Kings would have liked a few more assists out of him, but it wasn't like the distribution we've been seeing out of him on the regular so far this season. But Malik is just he's like a random generator, right? He's going to give you something. You don't know what it is, but he's going to give you something. And more often than not, it's the right thing. Malik has found the perfect environment for himself, and I'm truly hoping that he recognizes that as much as the Kings recognize that and as much as I recognize that. Because if this is I don't know if Malik can find a better environment for him than what the Sacramento Kings are providing right now. And if he recognizes that, he should be doing everything in his power to stay here. Again, I don't know his motivations. I'm sure there's heavy financial motivations, and I hope the Sacramento Kings can pay the man what he deserves, because some team is going to smart up and do it. The Kings cannot afford to lose Malik Monk. They cannot afford to lose him more than they can't afford to pay him, if that makes sense. Figure it out. Find a way to give the man the money that he needs, because he is essential to the Sacramento Kings. Look, as of right now, I would love for Keegan Murray to become this guy. And, of course, Keegan Murray didn't play tonight. He's still out with the injured back. We'll see if he plays tomorrow against the Los Angeles Clippers. He was a full participant at practice yesterday and in shoot-around today, but was not a go. Kings being more cautious on that side with him, and I understand that move. I would love for Keegan to turn into the guy other than De'Aaron Fox, where Kings need a bucket, give the ball to Keegan Murray, he'll go out and get that bucket for you. I would love for Keegan to become that. He's not there yet. That's not who Domantas Sabonis is. Maybe every once in a while Sabonis can get physical in the post and go get you a bucket at the rim or two, and every once in a while Kevin Huerter can get a big three off of his own creation, or Harrison Barnes can work in the post or attack the rim and get a bucket. Like, every once in a while from those guys is good, but you need more consistent than every once in a while other than De'Aaron Fox. Malik Monk is that guy for the Kings. When the Kings got to have a bucket, it's either number 5 or it's Malik Monk that's going out and getting it for you. So Malik is essential to the success of Sacramento. This is a perfect place for him. He is flourishing here in Sacramento for a reason, and I sincerely hope that the Kings find a way to make that long term. I can say that now with confidence, not even knowing how the rest of the season goes, because I know how important he is to Sacramento and their success right now, and I think how successful he can be and the Kings can be with him in the future years. So I hope the Kings can figure that out. Sasha Vezenkov deserves a whole lot of love tonight. Vezenkov was the 12th guy out of 12 that Mike Brown played tonight. Mike at times was grasping at straws, and understandably, right? Like, the Kings were not playing well. He was looking for someone to play the right way, looking for someone to do the things that the Kings have been trying to implement this season. He was looking for somebody to do it. Sasha Vezenkov has been out of the rotation for the last handful of games, doesn't play at all in the first half, ends up playing 15 minutes, almost 16 minutes in the second half. All of his minutes came in the second half, and he played a vast majority of the fourth quarter. Why? Because he came in, he scored 8 points, had 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 blocks in nearly 15 and a half minutes, hit some big shots. There were some times where I was like, okay, Sasha, you're trying a little bit too hard to be the hero from three-point range, but he wasn't alone in that in the fourth quarter. But he came in, made an amazing impact, and this stat is from Will Z tonight. Sasha Vezenkov's advanced ratings: an offensive rating of 137.5, which is highest on the team by a wide margin. A defensive rating of 87.1. That's a net rating of 50. That's insane efficiency to play nearly 16 minutes in the second half and to have a positive net rating of 50, to be not only spacing the floor and hitting the threes like you were known to do, and that was your primary skill out of Europe, but you come in and you post the best defensive rating on the team. You block 2 shots. You're helping get rebounds. Sasha Vezenkov changed this game in so many ways for the Kings in the second half. The only person who changed the game more was Draymond Green. Like, Sasha was that big of a deal. And remember, the defensive weaknesses were the things that we were questioning, were the things that we were concerned about with Sasha coming in. Well, I see you saying, hey, what about moving Harrison out of the starting lineup, putting Sasha Vezenkov in? I don't think we're there yet. Pump the brakes on that. But I think the Kings really need to find a way to have both Trey Lyles and Sasha Vezenkov in the rotation. And I think it goes back to a lot of what we were talking about during this offseason. I think it's time to say, JaVale McGee, sit down. Alex Len, you're out with injury right now. Trey Lyles is your backup 5. Sasha Vezenkov is your backup 4. You're going small ball. Because I think both of these guys have to play. Trey Lyles also had 11 points tonight. It was good to see him play. First time the Kings have had him against the Warriors so far this season. De'Aaron Fox tonight. Like I said, he had 29 points. It was a quiet 29. Fox, 9 of 20 from the field. Did not shoot the ball well, and he even said after the game that, he knows he could have shot the ball better. He obviously wants to shoot the ball better, but he gave himself praise, and then Mike Brown gave him a ton of praise. Mike Brown said he was the dictionary definition, the Webster's definition of a two-way player tonight, because offensively, he still puts up 29 points. He does what you know Fox is capable of doing offensively. He could have been a whole hell of a lot better, and the Kings needed him to be, especially in that first half. But his shot's not falling. Okay, I'm going to impact the game the other way. He finishes with 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and guarded virtually everybody. He spent time guarding Draymond Green, spent time guarding Klay Thompson, spent time guarding Steph Curry, spent time guarding Andrew Wiggins. Like De'Aaron said, I ain't scoring. Other guys are scoring. That's good. We need to get some stops to get ourselves back in this game. I'm going to take that on myself. One of the major reasons why the Kings held the Warriors to 19 points in the fourth quarter was because of De'Aaron Fox. Now, going back to the first half, I was ready to rip him a little bit because I was thinking, I know De'Aaron can't be the guy every single night. He's going to have bad games. But on a night where you're missing Keegan Murray and the Golden State Warriors are the Golden State Warriors, they needed more out of their star. And I can use the same criticisms for Domantas Sabonis. 9 points tonight, 2 of 7 from the field, 8 rebounds, 10 assists. So Sabonis was involved in other ways too. He had some good defensive moments too, but the 8 rebounds not nearly enough. Now, Kevon Looney didn't have a lot of rebounds either. The 10 assists was huge for the Kings with his distribution. But once again, Sabonis I think the Warriors are still in Sabonis' head. They just have to be, because Sabonis keeps making kind of the same mistakes. He is still extremely hesitant to take that mid-range jumper, and I don't know why. Domas just does not play the same against the Warriors. And to some extent, and on one hand, it's like, okay, the Warriors just might not be a good matchup for Domas. I can expect that and respect that, because a lot of teams are like that for certain players, right? It's just the way of the NBA, right? Certain matchups are just not good for you. But you still got to give me more. And if you've been saying you're working on all this improvement in the offseason, you're working on that mid-range jumper specifically because that's how exposed you were by the Warriors and by Kevon Looney in the playoffs, here's an opportunity again for you to prove it, and he just wasn't doing it tonight. So I was a little disappointed with Domas' performance overall. His first half was really bad, but there were a lot of guys that were really bad. Ultimately, the Kings ended up winning this game. Sabonis had a lot to do with that. So a lot of individual performances to highlight. If you want to share your thoughts and some love on one guy or a bunch of guys, hey, maybe even it's Draymond Green tonight, go ahead and do so in the comment section down below. You can also hit me on Twitter at MattGeorgeSack at Gmail, you can do it on Twitter at MattGeorgeSack, and then you can email me, MattGeorgeSports@gmail.com. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the #1 way and the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. The way PrizePicks works, you're not going against all those other players out there, whether it's hobbyists like yourself or the pros and the sharks out there that make their money on your hobby and beat you in that way. You're not playing them. You're just going against PrizePicks projections and picking more or less than those projections. I nearly had not only a Kings win tonight, I nearly had a major night. I nearly went 5 for 5. You pick up to between 2 to 6 players. Of course, the more players that you pick and the more you get right, the more money that you make. I nearly turned $20 into $200 tonight on PrizePicks. The only thing I needed was one more Kevon Looney assist. Hey, that serves me right to want more from Kevon Looney in a game against the Sacramento Kings. Although maybe because I was asking for more and betting on Kevon Looney to give more, he didn't do as well as we've seen him do tonight. So maybe I can take the credit in that sense. But still, 4 out of 5. I still made money on PrizePicks. There's so many fun ways for you to play. PrizePicks is the most fun that I've had, winning up to 25 times my money on basketball entries. And here's the cool thing. If you're a football fan too, on like a Sunday or a Monday or a Thursday, PrizePicks has their mixed. So for example, you could choose, you could take like LeBron James and Travis Kelce for a combined 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made for LeBron, and receptions for Travis Kelce, right? There's just so many creative and fun ways to play for PrizePicks. Plus, they have a really cool insurance policy too, where if you pick one player, let's say you pick De'Aaron Fox to go for over or more than 30.5 points, right? And then knock on wood, De'Aaron Fox gets hurt in the first quarter. Well, you're not going to get penalized for that on PrizePicks. That's really cool that they do. PrizePicks, it's so much fun. Head to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy. The Kings are moving on 4-0 in the in-season tournament West C group play. They beat them all, and now they move on to the knockout round on Monday. Here in the Golden One Center, the Kings will face the New Orleans Pelicans. One of the 3 teams that has beaten the Sacramento Kings twice this season. A team that, matchup-wise, not great for the Kings. But the Kings have a chance on their home floor to right some wrongs, to make up for it. Hopefully, Keegan Murray will be back, and they didn't have Keegan for most of those 2 games. I think he played one half of the first game and didn't play the second. So their expectations should still be high, right? And here's how. So the Kings play a knockout round. Whoever wins moves on. Whoever loses is out. No point differential. None of that matters. If the Kings win, they go to Las Vegas for the semifinals. And then if they win that, they play in Las Vegas for the championship game. Now, here's what's important to note. The knockout round game on Wednesday, and if they were to make it, the semifinals game in Las Vegas, those both count towards your regular season record. So even though the Kings didn't know who they were going to be playing on Monday, and now they know they're playing on Monday, right? I think I said Wednesday, but I meant Monday. Now that they know, it doesn't matter because that game still counts towards their regular season. So not only do the Kings want to beat the Pelicans to advance in the tournament, but they want to beat the Pelicans not just to get another win in the win column during the regular season, but also for potential playoff implications, right? You lose 3 times to the Pelicans, there's no chance that you can even split the series and have a tiebreaker against them that could be crucial come playoff seeding later on in the year. So this is a good game. I mean, every game's a good game for the Sacramento Kings to get, but this one is especially good. I'm loving the implications of this play or this in-season tournament. I think it's adding a lot of fun. The fact that there was this meaningful of a game between the Kings and Warriors in November. I mean, what a dream for the NBA to get this kind of game tonight with this much on the line. Just worked out perfectly for the NBA. But before that, they have 2 more games to play, including the Clippers coming into this building tomorrow night. Now, the first time we saw the Kings play the second night of a back-to-back was the first game against the Pelicans, and they did not look good in that game. That's to say the absolute least. They got beaten down, their largest loss of the season, I think, in that game. So, and every time you think about back-to-backs, you think about minutes played. De'Aaron Fox had a hefty load tonight. He played 40 minutes. Domantas Sabonis played 37 minutes. Kevin Huerter played 33 minutes. Both Malik Monk and Harrison Barnes played 26 minutes. So we'll see the kind of impact that has against the Clippers, a Clippers team that has not been good. That is absolutely, in my opinion, the worst team in the Pacific Division, and I think statistically that's where they're at right now. James Harden doesn't scare me at all. Of course, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George should scare the Sacramento Kings a little bit. Russell Westbrook, too, to some extent. And we know when the Kings and the Clippers played last year, history was made in terms of how many points these 2 teams scored. These 2 teams seem to always play each other hard, and there always seems to be fireworks. So Kings can't celebrate tonight's win too long because in just a little bit, in fact, it's past midnight right now that I'm recording this. So later on tonight, we'll be right back in this building for Kings versus Clippers. If you're going to that game, hit me up and let me know. I would love to see you here inside the Golden One Center. I'm always at the top of Section 105. You can find me there or walking around the concourse. Please come up and say hi. It was so great to meet so many of you at tonight's game. Really appreciate your support. And, of course, I'll have a post-game podcast after, hopefully, a Kings win over the Clippers. But regardless of the result, we'll be right back here on Locked on Kings, so I can't wait to see you there. One more time, thank you, Draymond Green, for this win for the Sacramento Kings tonight. Really appreciate it. Great for the Kings to finally get that win over the Warriors, and hopefully now this can open the floodgates. They'll beat the Warriors one more time later on this season. And I'm not saying I want the Kings and Warriors to match up in the playoffs again, but if they do, hey, maybe this is the win that the Kings needed to finally put those old dogs to sleep. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I'm not trying to get too high after one win. I know the Warriors are still 2-1 against the Kings in the regular season series, and overall, these games are bad for my blood pressure, bad for my heart rate, but great drama for all of us, so at least we can enjoy that. Whether we agree or disagree as Warriors and Kings fans, we can at least enjoy the basketball that our two teams are playing when they play each other. So we'll see what happens the next time they play, but thank God it's not till close to the end of the season. Thank goodness. I've had enough. I need a break. 3 games between these teams before Christmas. After the playoff series and the preseason too. I've had enough. Enough of these two teams playing. It's nice to get an extended break. But we're not going to take an extended break here on Locked On Kings. We'll be back tomorrow night. Can't wait to see you at that podcast. Until then, my name is Matt George. You have been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.